Welcome in, everyone. I'm SquishableMoon, your shooting star alien VTuber with a ranch addiction and fewer brain cells than your common garden snail. And welcome back to my channel. And welcome back to another book review. Now, I know that book reviews may not be exactly what you come to my channel for, but I have been enjoying reading books and you have to hear about them. And today's book review is going to be on another book that we covered. This is Songs of the Abyss by Emma Hamm. If you recall, I made a review about Whispers of the Deep. I gave it about a 9, I believe, in that video. And I am so excited to tell you that I was lucky enough to get a free early access copy of Songs of the Deep from Emma Hamm. Emma Hamm, if you're watching my video, thank you so much for letting me have this copy to review and read before it was released. I am going to be buying my own copies of the book, of course, physical copies, because I love my physical copies. Who doesn't? Your books are mwah, chef kiss. If you guys haven't read anything by Emma Hamm and you want to get into sort of the monster romance or fantasy romance type books, but maybe you're like me, you have a hard time reading, maybe you're dyslexic, maybe you're autistic, maybe you just don't like reading, but you want to get into it anyway. Emma Hamm's writing is very straightforward, very clean. I would recommend her a lot. When I went into her books, I was a little worried because I do struggle with reading. I'm a very slow reader. I'm very dyslexic. And when I tell you I was able to read her books so easily and so well, she writes so well. Her flow in her books are amazing. I cannot tell you how much she is one of my favorite authors in this genre because of how well she writes stories. I use her books when writing my own books to see how flow is supposed to work. I use hers as a model book myself because I can see where her bones are. If you're not a writer yourself, basically the book bones are the outlines of the story, and she definitely has her storyborn. I can't talk. Her story bones down. Excuse me. I am just really excited to talk about her book today. I'm sure, as you can tell, I'm a little frazzled. This is unscripted, by the way. This is all coming from the heart. I am still reading this book. Like I said, I'm very slow. I had about 2 weeks, I think, to read this book, maybe 2 or 3 weeks to read it. It comes out on the 15th. Please go order it. I cannot recommend this book enough. Okay, so rating. I'm not going to give you all of the details of the book. I'm not going to give you the ending because I actually am still reading it. So I can only give you what I have read so far. I'm right at the end. So maybe I'll give you more about the ending. Maybe I won't. I don't want to go too much into the book because I really want you guys to go and read it for yourself. But let's get into the story. Or first, actually, I take that back. Let's get into the rating. So as we know, I gave Whispers of the Deep a very high rating. I gave it about a 9.8, almost a 10. I loved that book. I am a big ocean fan. I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was older, and it was such a good read. Being so scared of reading and then finding a book that was so easy and good to read, especially one like Whispers of the Deep, was so amazing that I was so excited to apply to get an early access copy of her new book. Now, Songs of the Abyss. What can I say about this book? This rating has been weighing on my mind, but I think I am going to give it the same rating as my last one. I'm going to give it a 9.8 or maybe an 8.8. I rate this one a smidge lower than the other one just because I liked the characters in the first one a little bit better, but I liked the characters in this one just as much. But I'm a picky girl, as you know. So, Songs of the Abyss is going to follow a character named Anya and Alpha. If you don't know, by the way, you do not have to read these books in order, like all of the books in the series in order to read these. I honestly feel like you could just pick up one of these books and read it, but if you do read the first one, you do get a little bit of context as to what's going on in this book. with that being said, Anya lives in Alpha, which is the Golden City. It is the best city they have in the ocean. You see, humans have gone into the ocean to make their cities because the land has become too dangerous for them to live on. So now they live in underwater domes. Alpha being the most pristine, regal, golden city with all the beauty in the world. All of the rich people live there, and all of the gold and glimmering stuff is there as well. Now, Anya is a woman who is known as the songbird of Alpha. She is kind of like a famous person. She is almost like royalty. Her dad is basically this leader of Alpha. He was a big major part of them building the cities, and everyone looks to him for answers and clarity, and she's supposed to make him look good. Now, one thing that we learn about Anya very quickly is she is deaf, or at least partially deaf. She can hear sounds, but she can never make it out. Everything just sounds all jumbled together, and she can never quite understand it. She has a robot that goes over her head called Bitsy that she uses to translate what people are saying so she can communicate with them. Now, Anya was tired of living in Alpha, which you'd be like, why would she be tired of living in Alpha? Isn't this the Golden City, the rich people, everything she could ever want could be handed to her? But she is watched constantly. She is basically downgraded to a slave, if not a prisoner in her own home. Her father abuses her constantly, maybe not always physically, but definitely emotionally. She is under constant watch. She has cameras everywhere, and she's never allowed to truly be herself. She has to be where her father says, wear what her father says, and say what her father wants. As you can tell, this would get very draining after a short period of time. Anya is exhausted of this, and she has been seeking help from somebody in Beta through the internet, or what she uses to communicate with Beta, using her Bitsy that she uses to translate to talk to them. Now, what she wants is to take Alpha down. She feels like they shouldn't have all the power and that they need to help the other places. They have too much riches and they're not doing enough to help other people, basically. Now, Anya meets a very special friend. Anya has a saltwater pool that has a vent that leads from the ocean, or a pipe, into her saltwater bedroom in her pool. And guess who slips through that pipe? Going to the other point of view, we meet Dios. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Bad with pronouncing names. Sorry about that. We're going to call him Dios. He is an undine, or a merman. He is the biggest merman of his kind. He's very large. He is also dealing with a lot of trauma and regret. You see, this undine is a warrior. He led the other warriors against the humans, and a lot of them, if not all of them, perished while trying to defeat them. And Deus carries that PTSD and trauma with him to this day, having episodes every once in a while from thinking about it. Now, I want to say, as somebody who deals with traumatic events and PTSD myself, I really liked having a character who I could relate to. It was nice having a character I could relate to. Now, Deus is there to scout out Alpha to find a way in, because he's actually looking for the general's daughter, who happens to be Anya. So he tries to find where she is, going into a saltwater pipe and going into a pool. Now, Anya, on the other hand, was at a party at this time, and she did not want to be there at the party. She was basically being treated like a little pet, having to do what her father says, and storms off to a saltwater room nearby. And in the saltwater room is where she meets Deos, our little Undine friend. Now, he is very confused because he slowly realizes that Anya can't hear. She can't hear him splashing or bumping stuff around. He's a big merman, by the way. He's a little clumsy. There's only so much he can do with how large he is. By the way, if you like size difference, this series is for you. Not only are the males big, but the females are even bigger, which is why I'm really hoping, praying that Emma Ham makes a lesbian story of this kind, because I would love to read that. Of course, she doesn't have to, but I would love to see a female romance story from her so bad. Now, Deos and Anya meet, and at first she is deathly afraid. Obviously, you'd be afraid of any monster coming out of the water. But she ends up jumping into the water out of instinct just to get another look at him. And they see each other. And I almost want to say it's love at first sight. Not quite love at first sight, but it's almost like they desire each other. It's like deep down, they know they are meant to be together, and they touch hands. Of course, she is called away by her father, and that is when we realize that she, Anya, is the general's daughter, and that's who he's looking for. Convenient. We find out that Anya can communicate with him, even if it's only a little bit, thanks to Bitsy, her robot. And she waits for the Undine to come back. He comes back every 3 days, and they communicate the best they can to kind of build up a friendship. One thing I really like about Emma Ham's writing is it's never affection immediately. It's never immediate when things happen. There's always a progression in the story. It's never just one and done, which, don't get me wrong, I love love at first sight. I love that stuff. I love fated mates. But I also like when there is a progression, because even though the heart wants what the heart wants, our heads get in the way, and humans are kind of stupid, let's be honest. So we have a nice progression of them kind of getting to know each other. And she does confirm that she wants to leave. And she wants to leave so she can meet up with her friend called Ace, which she kind of might have a thing for. That's for you to find out. And she finally makes the decision that she is going to leave Alpha, the Golden City, to take it down from the outside instead of taking it down from the inside, because she's trapped in her room and it's difficult for her to talk with Ace and get plans going. Now, she waits for him to come back, but he's not coming back, and her father is making the guard situation even worse on her. She has way more security on her, and she can barely get a moment of peace by herself. Her father is angry with her for leaving the party, by the way, and he never treats her well to begin with. So she makes the decision to put on her wetsuit, get a little box to put Bitsy in, her robot, and she jumps into her pool and swims through the pipes. Now, something she notices is that there are crabs in the pipes. So she's following the crabs, trying to get to the open ocean. And there in the pipe, she meets a dark figure who happens to be her Undine, Deos. And he grabs her and swims out. Now, something about Deos that also is part of his trauma is he is missing an arm. He thinks his arm looks hideous, and he feels like he's less than because of his arm. So he grabs her with his one arm, and they swim out and make it to the ocean. Something I really love about Songs of the Abyss is it is a completely different vibe from Whispers of the Deep. Whispers of the Deep felt mystical and magical. The ocean felt like a warm kind of hug, like it was full of life. But in Songs of the Abyss, the vibe is totally different. Anya sees the ocean as this scary entity. It's dark, it's cold, it's a vast nothingness. And she is horrified. For the first time, she is without her father, her guards. She is out of Alpha. She is out of her element. She is a tiny little frail woman out in the abyss with an Undine she barely knows. I have to hand it to Emma Ham. Being able to change the story based on the character's view and change the vibe is really amazing. Whispers of the Deep, if you want to love the ocean, if you think the ocean is magical, that book is for you. If you are scared of the ocean, if you think the ocean is a vast nothingness and it's horrifying, Songs of the Abyss is for you. I don't know how she can make a similar plot between two books but make them completely freaking different. The vibe in each one is so distinct that it is impossible to believe that they are from the same author. It just shows how good her writing is, how much time she's put into these stories, and how much I freaking love it, okay? I freaking love her writing. I love it so freaking much. That's gonna be this whole video. Anyway, the two of them make their way to find a safe spot for her to be. Now, Dios heard from one of the other characters, his brother, that there is a safe spot of the Golden City that had sunk long ago. And so they go there. At first, Dios thinks it's dangerous, that he shouldn't leave her there, but she says that it is safe and that she wants to stay there. So they go in and she makes herself at home. She is able to use Bitsy to kind of clear out some of the water and clear one room. That way she is able to go through a hallway and find beds and like clothing so she can get a little bit drier. Now, the thing is, Bitsy is able to reroute some of the power to the room she's in, but if she reroutes all of the power to that room, they are going to notice that she is there right away. So she can only use a percentage of the power, which means only a percentage of the heat. So she has to be a little bit cold while being in this room, which kind of sucks, but she makes do. Now, at first, Dios de Undine does not want anything to do with her. He's like, okay, I kidnapped her for the plan because I was stupid enough to do it. Now what do I do with her? I don't want a human. Because he hates the humans. He's out of everyone. He hates the humans the most. He wants them all dead. He thinks they're stupid. He's like, I don't want them. But the ocean seems to have a different plan for him. He can feel the ocean around him guiding him to catching fish. And for once in a very long time, he feels the ocean isn't against him and is actually helping him to keep this human alive. So he catches food for her. And for the next couple of days to weeks, he brings her food. And in this universe, this is basically courting. That's right. This is courting to the Undines. Bringing someone food is courting. But he does it anyway. And they get closer. They start talking. He starts talking more. He's at first a little afraid. I would say afraid. He thinks that he's too big. He's too scary. He's a monster. He sees himself as a monster, pretty much. And he sees this little human as a frail, little weak human with beautiful blonde hair and pale skin. But he can't even help himself by finding her attractive. I love this. The fact that they clearly find each other attractive, but are trying so desperately to fight against it. It makes a lot of sense. He's an Undine of the ocean. She's a human. She can't survive underwater. Oh, one thing I did want to mention. He did have a mask for her to breathe underwater. So he gave her a mask so she can breathe underwater. That'll come into play later. It's an item we see in the first book, Whispers of the Deep. Not important. Just a detail I wanted to mention. And I feel like a lot of the book is them during this time, which I really like. I like when a book gives characters time together to kind of, to see where they are in their relationship. And of course, he slowly starts to want to touch her, and she's not against being touched. She's slowly showing that she's not scared of him, like, at all, which he finds confusing because he thinks he's the most scary Undine in the entire ocean. With his poisonous barbs on his back and mangled fins. He's like, no, she can't think I'm attractive. She can't love me. She probably finds me horrifying. But she doesn't. She thinks that he is pretty, actually, and she likes the way he looks. We get a lot of really cute scenes of him combing her golden hair, and she likes it. And a lot of them just talking and figuring out what they're gonna do. Now, with this book, I do have to mention that it is a spicy book. It is 18 plus or 19 plus. There are spicy scenes in this, but like the last book, the plot will always come first. That is something you can always count on with Emma Hamm's book, is the plot is never skipped on. The plot is always important just as much as the spicy scenes are, which I absolutely adore with her writing. Because I gotta be honest, I like spicy books. Who doesn't like spicy books? Sometimes you just need a little, some spice. And I just want a little bit of spice, I mean, I like a lot of spice, don't get me wrong. Spice all day, every day. But when the plot is so good that you forget there's supposed to be spicy scenes in it, the spice just adds to the book a lot more. So, like I said, plot comes first before the spice. So if you want a book that is primarily spice, maybe don't try this book. But if you're okay with a kind of longer intro and then getting into the spice, then this is just right up your alley. I like plot first, so I love this story. I love the ocean. I love mermaids. I love the tranquility of it. I like that we get more areas in this book, but we don't have to feel rushed. That is another thing with her books that I really like. Her books are not rushed at all. At least I feel like they're not. They have a nice flow to them. It doesn't feel like too much is going on, but it also feels like there is enough going on to keep you entertained. Because I don't know about you, sometimes when I'm reading a book, it's just like blah, 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 all of this, all of that. And it's just like, it gets a little boring, which is something I'm trying to work on in my own writing, is too much exposition and not enough sustenance for the reader. I need to eat it, it's good eats. It's good eats. I love it. I love her books. So at some point, they do have to leave the area they're in because it breaks. And so does her mask. This is a really hard thing to deal with because, like I said, humans cannot breathe underwater. What are they going to do? He has no idea. So he takes her into the water, and this is a very big moment in their relationship because he has to bring her back into the freezing water, the darkness that she is so scared of, and he has to do something to help her breathe underwater. Now, in this universe, in this book, Undines have a tentacle that is kind of like a windpipe. He can stick the windpipe in her neck gently, and she'll be able to breathe kind of underwater. Well, she won't be breathing. He'll be breathing for her. Like I said, kind of terrifying, uncomfortable. He does this, and she has to trust him enough to do this. And he does. And he brings her to another dome. And this dome is where Mira is, which is a character from the first book. So if you haven't read the first book, that's totally fine. You're still going to meet this character. She's important to the plot, and we're going to meet this character. Now, like I said, they want to take down Alpha, and that is their plan. All the Undines, the humans, Mira and Anya, they all want to take the place down because it isn't working anymore. They are destroying the ocean, as we learn in the first book. Mira, on the other hand, she wants humans and Undines to get along. They want them to live in peace and kind of as one giant whole. So I don't want to give too much away. There's some spicy scenes at the end that are chef kiss. Please check out this book. If you like spicy books, if you like mermen, Undines, and kind of a creepy ocean vibe, this book is definitely for you. this video is getting way too long, and I don't want to keep just talking about how much I love this book because I can go on for 5,000 years. If you want to read this book, please shout me out. I would love to hear what you think about the book. And let me know in the comments what books you would like me to review next. I am okay with reading spicy books, non-spicy books, but I do prefer fantasy. That's all that matters to me. With that being said, I'm SquishableMoon. I hope all your dreams come true. Bye-bye.